All right, hello, everybody. I will call to the meeting to order at 5:02 p.m. for the Environmental Services Committee for Thursday, December 5th, 2024. As a reminder, the meeting will be live streamed and recorded for public viewing on the town's YouTube channel. I'll remind the committee to declare pecuniary interest at the time if you have one. We have no delegations, so I'll move over to 4.1. I have a motion moved by Mayor Atkinson, seconded by Committee Member Rapel, that the minutes be adopted by the Plympton-Wyoming Environmental Services Committee, and that those confidential minutes of the closed session of the committee remain confidential and restricted from public disclosure in accordance with the exemptions provided in the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. And that is for our Environmental Services Committee meeting minutes, November 7th, 2024. Anyone have any questions or comments about the minutes? Seeing nothing, so I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Carried. We have nothing under item 5, so I'll move to accounts. I have a motion moved by Committee Member Rapel, seconded by Mayor Atkinson, that the accounts as listed be received by the Plympton-Wyoming Environmental Services Committee. And that is the water list as of October 2024, the sewer list as of October 2024, and the environmental list as of 2024 October. We received that in advance. Is there any questions from the committee? Mayor Atkinson.
Thank you. Just a couple quick questions, Mr. Chair. First of all, going to the water and sewer payables. Let's do water first. For Jacobs, there was 3 lines with out of scope 2023. Could I get some clarity what the out of scope means? I believe it was 7, 8, 9 in the lines there. Yes.
Yeah, through the chair, I can provide a little bit of clarity on that. So out of scope is anything that Jacobs performs for us that's outside of their operations contract. So the reason why that's split out into 3 lines is because we coded it to 3 separate accounts, depending on what they were doing. A lot of costs from 2023 came from the Neptune meter project, where when Neptune would show up to a property and they couldn't isolate the meter, they would have to call Jacobs, who would then go and turn off the curb stop. And then we had quite a few out of scope regarding water main commissioning. So any capital project where water mains have to be commissioned, Jacobs is performing all of that commissioning work out of scope and for developments as well. So that it was one invoice that came in, but I broke it up into 3 different categories because they went to 3 different accounts.
So that would carry over as well into the sewer one because there's one out of scope as well there as well. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's all that I guess that's answered my question. I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Yeah. I guess I just wanted to make one clarification too, just building off the out of scope. So it's on record as well, just because I know last time we talked about out of scope, it's an issue on Egremont Road. Water main break. So originally the conversation was Jacobs was waiving their out of scope for 2023. So I spoke with Paul. And just to confirm for the record, it sounds like that bill ended up going straight to Jacobs instead. So the town of Plympton-Wyoming did not pay for a bill related to that water main break.
That's correct.
So with that, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Okay, thank you. Move on to staff reports. So we have one staff report tonight. I have a motion moved by Mayor Atkinson, seconded by Committee Member Rapel, that the report by Paul DeSilva, Director of Public Works, dated November 27th, 2024, regarding the Plympton-Wyoming Drinking Water Master Plan update be received, and that the master plan update completed by AECOM, including recommended capital works identified within the study, be endorsed by the Environmental Services Committee and forwarded to Council for approval. So that was a pretty hefty PDF there, but there was a pretty good staff report in there. Was there any questions or comments from the committee?
No, it looks as though our infrastructure is good for 2033. Just reading through, encouraged by, like it doesn't seem as if there's a lot of upgrades.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, I can provide a little bit of a summary on that, but you're absolutely correct. We are well poised for any growth. We assumed a population of 13,500 in 2033, which might be, a little bit more than what we may get, but we wanted to kind of use like a worst case scenario. So on the distribution side, we are in good shape. However, there are a few key projects that we need to continue to tackle. And that's mostly around our replacement of old water mains. Over time, they get full of tuberculation that slows down the water flow, and mostly that's contributing to kind of low fire flow pressures, especially within the Wyoming area. So we're gonna solve those in kind of two different ways, continue to replace water main. And eventually, as part of the law's master plan, they will be taking over the standpipe here in town and having it independent. So we'll be able to increase our pressure zone in the village of Wyoming itself, which should take care of a lot of the concerns of pressure. Another notable project is the low pressure kind of in our northeast quadrant in the Hillsborough and Townsend area. We have low fire flow in that area, and that was identified within the master plan, and it provided us with a few different options for tackling that issue. So in summary, in good shape, but definitely keep moving on with our capital replacement program.
A lot of the replacement stems around the asbestos concrete pipe.
That's exactly correct. Yes, it's we need to right now. Whenever we do a street reconstruction, we're also replacing a water main, but we can only afford to do, one street reconstruction a year, which means that water main replacement program kind of lags behind what we need to be doing. So in the next little while, we'll be developing a capital plan where we'll be replacing water mains and not necessarily reconstructing the road at the same time, but there's a need there. So we kind of have to jump ahead and do a little bit more water main replacement, and the street reconstruction will kind of lag behind.
I guess I'll just take a second to build off that with an additional question. So for the water main replacements that we're doing, is there a significant added cost to the fact that we're trying to aim for this 13,500 population in the next 10 years? Or are we replacing these water mains? Like 63% population increase in 10 years is pretty aggressive. I don't think that's realistic at all. So when we're talking about these replacements, we have to do these no matter what, but are we spending a bunch of extra money to expand sizes or capacity for that population target, or is that work largely already done?
Right. So no, we're not. These replacements are not due to growth whatsoever. They're just due to age. And we need to continue to replace them just to kind of increase our fire flows within the village of Wyoming. That's where we see most of our issues, besides that kind of northeast quadrant and former Plympton. But right here in the village, we do have some fire flow issues, and that will solve itself by continuing to do these water main replacements.
Thank you. So before I go to my left, I do have one other clarification question because it was mentioned. Because I know we're endorsing this to go to council in the Townsend Hillsborough area. I think will be relatively controversial. So just a clarification question. When we're talking about improving fire flow pressure in that area, we just went through an exercise with the developer. They increased the ability to have higher density in that area, and they were completely self-sufficient to do so. So I'm just wondering if I can get clarification on, we're going to endorse this, where we will be footing the bill to improve this area's water flow when a developer has put in an application to say it's sufficient enough for the homes that they want to build.
So that's a really good question, and I will start the conversation by saying, even if that development doesn't proceed, town still needs to look at improving the flow in this area. Right now, it's falling beneath the 32 liters per second for fire flow requirement. Secondly, the developer, when they originally came to us, they came to us with a solution of tying into the existing Lambton Shores water distribution system, which council at the time was not in favor of. So we haven't got back to the table with the developer to kind of talk about how exactly they're going to solve that problem. But AECOM, they kind of noted both methods as well. So they said you can either A, tie into the Lambton Shores, or B, you can put a new main down Townsend line and tie it into the Laws main out at Lakeshore. As staff, we're really not in favor of tying into the Lambton Shore system either, because for a couple of different reasons, it's limited in its capacity as well. And Lambton Shores could have the ability to just turn it off whenever they want to. So realistically, the best approach here, it's more expensive, but the best approach would be to put in a new water main down Townsend line. And I think that there might be an opportunity there, if council endorses it, that we could look at a cost share with the developer.
Answers my question for now. Mayor Atkinson.
So just dovetailing onto that last comment, if with this development, not only the developer as well, but all those areas out along that area, along parallel to the water, their pressure is still low as well. So that would probably boost that up, would it not, with their new line?
Through the chair, yes, that would be the intent of that new line, would be to boost flow. It's not so much. There's static pressure there. So when the water's not moving, there's enough pressure. But as soon as it starts moving, we call that residual pressure. It just drops way down because water is only coming up Hillsborough Road. It's not, there's no loop there for it to come from two different directions. So as soon as you open up a hydrant in that area and that water starts flowing, the pressure just drops way down. And you just don't get your fire flow at the end of that main.
So that would encompass the area like Inver, Karen, back in that area too?
It's a little further north than that. Yeah, it's right at Townsend and Hillsborough where that's kind of the lowest pressure point in that system.
And going back to the other one, really, I'm glad to see about that concern about the water pressure in Wyoming proper, because we do get phone calls regularly about the pressure being so low. I look forward to when that's going to happen too.
Agreed.
Well, yes.
And I guess if there's another housing enabler type fund in the future, that might be a project because that land's getting developed.
Yes, yeah, we will continue to look for grants to facilitate that project for sure.
So if there's no other questions, I will call for the vote. So that is again to endorse and forward to council. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thanks, Paul. Well, nothing under bylaws, nothing under item 9 or 10, so we'll move on to 11. I think we got one piece under correspondence recommended, or recommended reading and routine approval. I have a motion moved by committee member Rapel, seconded by Mayor Atkinson, that the correspondence related to recommended reading and routine approval and information items not otherwise addressed by resolution be noted as received by the Plympton-Wyoming Environmental Services Committee and filed accordingly. As the monthly report for October 2024. I'll look to the committee to see if there are any questions on that. See nothing. Call for the vote. All in favor? We'll move over to new business related to environmental services. So I'll start with my left on the committee. Mayor Atkinson, anything for you?
Nothing on new business at this time, Mr. Chair.
Yes, and through the chair. This year, or 2025, you don't have it in front of you currently, but Jacobs is seeking a 4% increase. Now that is 1.4% more than the contract obligation of the 50-50 blend CI and CPI. That increase is primarily due to wages in order to retain qualified, knowledgeable staff for the system and for to allow that trust between Paul and yourselves in my staff. 4% is a less increase than the last 2 years. But that is worked into the 4% that we will be asking is that 1.4 to cover increased wages as well as materials.
Start with any questions, Mayor Atkinson?
What was the increase the last 2 years? I just forgot off.
So in 2023, it was 5.93. Last year was 4.66.
And what was the contract? If, what do we have in the contract? Did we go over the contract last?
So in the contract, it states that we use a blend of ECI and CPI, and these are numbers that are provided by the government. And we take a 50-50 blend of those percentages. This year that works out to 2.6. But like I said, we're adding in that 1.4 or asking for that 1.4%. Our actual increase of our cost is actually 6.5. And Jacobs will be assuming the 2.5% extra.
Okay, so has that come forth to our staff yet?
I have sent a letter to Paul, but it was unclear as to where we got our number from. So we didn't feel it was right at the time until we had that conversation to present that to.
Just to confirm with Paul. Is the next step, does that go straight to council given the timing? Or what's the next step? Like when is there a shot at this going to be discussed at the council level?
My intention would be to bring it back in February to this committee again, and then whatever increase we finally land on, it'll just be retroactive to January 1st. Yes, and just to follow up too, Jacobs had provided their increase of asking for 4%. When we ran the numbers, we brought it to their attention that that was too high based on the contract. And turned it back to them and asked for an explanation, and then we discussed it again today, and Joe decided that he would want to bring it up to the committee just to let you guys know where they're coming from, but we haven't agreed to it. We're still back and forth on it.
Yeah, because I don't think we can make that decision today. No, that's a council problem. Would it be treasurer?
Final decision.
Yeah, final decisions, council.
So it's more so for information for now.
For information for now, and I would imagine Jacobs is going to put a proposal together that's going to come back to this committee for endorsement. If it does get endorsed, whatever number gets landed on at this committee will go to council for final approval. Again, council does have the decision to, to follow that endorsement or not.
Anything for now? Okay, is that everything for now?
Yep.
I don't have anything.
Okay. So for now, until that circles back, we will move on to adjournment. If you had something.
I reviewed October's monthly reports today and everything's looking good.
It's always good to come from. All right, so I have a motion here, moved by Mayor Atkinson, seconded by Committee Member Rapel, that the Plympton-Wyoming Environmental Services Committee regular meeting be adjourned until the next regular meeting to be held on February 6th, 2025 at 5 p.m. All in favor?